Recording in progress. Enjoy your meeting.
All right, thank you, Meredith. So I will call our meeting of the Autonomy Conservation Authority on February 16th to order at 5:10 p.m. That I will begin with our land acknowledgement, in that we respectfully acknowledge that we are on the treaty and traditional territory of the Massasauga Anishinaabe. We offer our gratitude to the First Peoples for their care for and teachings about our earth and our relations. May we honor those teachings. All right, first order of business is to approve our amended agenda, as we needed to include the 2022 Audit Committee appointments to our existing agenda. So looking for a mover, we got Gary, seconder is Pat. All in favor? So approved. All right, disclosure of conflict of interest, pecuniary interests, seeing none. Move on to delegations. We have none this evening. I'll look for the approval of the minutes. I'm going to do them together of January 19th and of January 26th. Get somebody to move those minutes. Joe and Ron, all in favor? So approved. Was there any business arising from the minutes anybody wants to bring up? All right, seeing none, we'll move straight into reports then. So we got report 2023-013, appointment to provincial offense officers. Don, it's your report.
Thank you, Chair Huntley, and through you. This is a report to approve and designate Jim Shrubsall as our provincial offenses officer, one of. We're lucky to have Jim. He comes to us from Kawartha Conservation with over 5 years experience, where he was in the same role and was a designated provincial offenses officer at that organization as well. Jim's completed his 3-month probationary period, so we're asking for his designation to give him the tools he needs to carry out his duties.
Excellent. Thank you, Don. And any questions, comments? Seeing none. Joe, you want to move for that? Seconder is John. All in favor? So approved. Good and easy there, Don. All right, the next report. If I'm going too fast, Jeanette, please just give me a signal. All right, but the next report's yours anyway, I believe. So it's 2023-2022 Audit Committee appointments.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, this report was sent out and brought to the meeting tonight, looking to have 2 members appointed for the 2022 audit. We have our members for the 2023 audit that was done at the AGM, but in getting prepared for our audit, our auditor is actually conducting the audit now, and we're hoping to bring the audit to the March board meeting, but we do need to have a committee meeting. So our directors, Vice Chair Metcalf and Director Baldwin, have volunteered, and those 2 directors were on the board throughout 2022. So the report is for your approval tonight.
Thank you, Jeanette. Does anybody want to be on that board instead of them? If not, then I look for a mover to appoint Mike and Gary to the audit committee for this year. All right, Pat, Ron, all in favor? So moved. Thank you very much. All right, I think that moves us then to our reports for information. Our first report is 2023-014, the Public Information Center, Thompson Creek floodplain mapping. The floor is yours again, Don.
Thank you, Chair Huntley, and through you. This is similar to what we did last year when we pushed through the other 8 floodplain mapping projects. So we offer a 30-day opportunity for a public review and comment. And we set up this online with a social media campaign to get the word out there. And hopefully we can get some feedback. And of course, we allow or provide an opportunity to answer any questions that may come as part of the Public Information Center. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Don. Any questions? Go ahead, Taylor. Joe?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Don. Don, I read through the report and I looked at the two aerial photographs that are included, and I blew them up and I looked and I couldn't see a body of water that looked like Thompson Creek. What's there is looks like the Otonabee River and a tributary from it. But where is Thompson Creek?
Well, through you, Chair, the great question, Director Taylor. It's actually up in the Armour Road north end of the city of Peterborough. So it actually, the creek starts at the Trent Severn Waterway operated dam that's comes from the canal. So it actually starts at the canal side and flows down to the Otonabee River through that section of town within the city of Peterborough.
All right. So, Joe, I don't know if you look at the map, I believe it's bordered in red, is it not, Don? Like,
Yes, the floodplain is the red layer.
Right.
Down the bottom right of the map.
yeah.
Okay, I see. I guess maybe if I blew it up even bigger, I see the outline in red, but I don't really see the creek in there. But I see the area, so that's fine. That's fine. Thank you, Don.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Baldwin?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chair. Through you, I don't know if it's good fishing in there, Joe, but there's a lot of small little bait fish that goes in there. And of course, we used to be able to have hockey rinks out there, but this hasn't been a great year. My question though is to Don. Don, you're going to send this out on social media for comment and input. What would you consider to be a reasonable amount of feedback from the public? If you got a handle on, or would you expect to get 20 responses, 50 responses, or any idea what you might expect versus last year, for example?
Yeah, so through you, Chair Huntley, Dr. Baldwin, yeah, good question. And honestly, I don't think there is an answer for that. I know last year we lumped in, a number of different studies all in one sort of larger PIC, where this is just one small creek in the city of Peterborough. So I expect the foot traffic, if you will be much less than what we saw last year, but we'll be monitoring the online metrics to get a feel for how many people went to the site or searched their addresses, and we'll be able to report back to the board after the PIC is completed. Okay, that's good. I'm just curious because that particular area is in my ward. It's a hotbed of activity. Councillor Duguay would know that there's a pretty invested community there around a proposed 7 or 8 story apartment building. So I suspect you may get some traffic in terms of feedback. So just wanted to give you a heads up on that. So thanks so much for the report.
And if I might also add, arising from the Ontario Municipal Board approved official plan amendments and zoning bylaw amendments, part of that process required, it was a request from the Conservation Authority for a geomorphological analysis. So you might, Don, want to reach out directly to Parkview Homes because they probably have the most current information available to the Conservation Authority. It would be purposeless to go reinvent a wheel. And that was approved by, that was accepted by the Conservation Authority, I believe, through Mr. McFarlane and formed part of the Ontario Municipal Board record. To that point, I would also suggest, Don, that you should, because there are other large parcels of undeveloped land that form part of the Auburn North secondary plan, that you might want to speak perhaps to Mr. Appleby at the city just to ensure maybe that directly those property owners, because there may be current development applications and they may not be monitoring your website insofar as a public information center. So you might want to reach out to Brad and have Brad could get you those direct information. I believe as well, there is a transportation study which is considering the update of Cunningham and Armour Road. Councillor Baldwin, I believe there is some notion about potential improvements and the Rotary Trail crossing. So again, all of that is in near and to Mr. Taylor's comments. Thompson Creek is a small tributary, but it's unique. But it's a little beehive of activity right now in terms of development, Armour Road realignment, and the Rotary Trail realignment, as well as the Auburn North secondary plan. So I'll leave that with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Duque. Any other questions or comments? Oh, I get a receiver, somebody to receive our report. Ron, Kevin? All in favor? So received. Thank you very much. Next report is 2023-015, our quarterly financial and activities report. Over to you, Jeanette.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So and these reports are specifically looking at 2022. And so they would be what we would refer to as our fourth quarter and or our year-end reports in terms of things. So seeing a package that the board would have seen throughout 2022. So I took an opportunity in the cover report to highlight the number of performance objectives that were achieved. So there were 76 performance objectives that the board had indicated for the organization in 2022, and that of that 67 of them were complete. 2 of those objectives were no longer started, and 7 of them were included and put into the 2023 objectives. So either they were multi-year objectives or we weren't able to achieve those. And you'll also see attached a financial report. So just taking the note that I also raised, we are in our auditing timeframe right now. So you will have an audited statement. Our auditor will be presenting those. And so these are the staff a financial report. We indicated in October of last year that we would be having a surplus. At the time, we estimated roughly 66,000 as a surplus. You will be seeing a report or a year-end report from our auditor that that surplus will be larger for 2022. But again, all of that information does go to our audit committee first. They review it, they look at it, they ask our auditor questions, they ask staff questions, and then that information comes to the board in terms of things. And then also attached is our permitting and enforcement, which was something that we added, an enforcement summary, which is something that we added last fall to our reports. So I'm happy to answer any questions that the directors might have with respect to 2022 and these reports.
Excellent. Thank you, Jeanette, for your report. And any questions or comments?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I have a question. I'm looking at the 75 permits issued between October 1st, 22nd. Are we talking about that report yet?
Yeah, that's all part of it.
Yeah, that's what I thought. And I'm looking at Selwyn has kept Orca very busy. Could you tell me just briefly, tell me major, minor, routine? What are basic definitions of those items? I'm sorry asking a rookie question, but just so that I understand.
It's a very good question. It's a very good question. And I'm going to have our manager, Mr. Allen, turn on his camera, but it's a very good question.
Yes, thank you for the question through you, Chair Huntley. So I'll break this down briefly for you. Major permit, that's something that would require significant more staff time at the review level. It might come with technical reports like a floodplain study, environmental impact study, those types of things. Usually takes a bit longer to review. So our Conservation Ontario timelines do allow for a bit more grace to allow us to get that review done at the staff level and then provide input or issue a permit. Minor permits, usually your simpler type permits, your shoreline armor stone, which we don't love, but something simple that doesn't require a large technical review, and usually is done very quickly. And then even faster than that, a routine permit, we're talking small sheds, unenclosed decks, that kind of stuff. We don't want to hold up a simple building permit process. So those are those three buckets, basically. That's how that's broken down.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
Excellent. Joe, any question?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I do have a question, Jeanette, with regard to the financial report. It says quarterly, but it's actually the year-end report. I know it's unaudited, but I'm trying to understand under the expense section, note 12 talks about City of Peterborough profit sharing for Beavermead Campground, higher than expected. So to me, that would mean that the revenue from Beavermead was higher than expected. It was used more. That's what I think that means. But when I look under the revenue lines, I don't see anywhere where that is reflected. There's about 8 categories. Where would Beavermead revenue be reflected so that it does show that it's busier than anticipated and brought in more money?
Through you, Mr. Chair. So that is a great question. And that is one of the things that we actually do need to, I'm going to couch this as a big picture here response, but as our 2024 budget. So as you know, the province has said that conservation authorities through the Accountability and Transparency Act directives is that we need to be clearer on all of our different revenue streams and what categories those fit into. But the reason that it's a number 12 is because historically we have budgeted in other expenses, revenues, and the expense to pay the contract and the obligations that we have to the city. So they are falling under that line. This actually came up in one of our municipal presentations, or the staff have also picked this up. So it's not really clear when you're trying to correlate the other expenses back up to the revenues in terms of things. But what I understand is that's where we have historically always put the revenue and the expense that we pay. It's an expense to us to pay the city of Peterborough. So
Okay, fair
long
enough.
story, convoluted a bit, but we have to work on the other expenses in our 2024 budget.
Right. It sounds like there should be a separate budget line for campground rentals, because we now are also operating Lakefield. So it could be a significant amount of money.
Yeah, and what we do have to do is line them up to the category 1 services, which are the mandatory, category 2 and category 3. And you would line up the expenses and the revenues as it relates to that category. So these questions will be answered through the formatting of the budget process.
All right, thank you.
Good question, Joe. Any other questions? Comments? No? Okay. So as I said, we will get the auditor reports that we'll have to approve a little bit later on, but we get a receiver. All right, Mike and Gary, all in favor? Thank you. So received. So that moves us on to 2023-016, the 2022 annual campground season report. So I'll call on Jesse to present us with the good news.
Thank you, Chair Huntley. Through you, I'm reporting on the annual campground statistics. This is a report that we provide to the board annually with the results of our camping season from the previous year. So the report outlines that we were able to return to a regular length season after a couple of years having a reduced length due to pandemic restrictions. So it was nice to be able to return to our normal starting date, which was May 13th. in 2022. So with that, you can see the results are shown in the report that we had a very successful season. This also reports on the day use activities at Warsaw Caves. Shows a significant increase in day use activities, which is a result of us for the past 2 years, 2020, 2021, we were not offering the same level of day use activities or services at Warsaw Caves. So we went back to a normal level of services there, which helped increase the amount of visitors coming in. That also reflects in the revenue at Warsaw as well. Just being able to offer the additional services, more day use passes being sold, and we previously weren't offering like canoe and kayak rentals. So offering that also increased the level of revenue. And then at Beavermead, we saw yet another jump in revenue from the camping. Just over the past few years, camping has started to become more of a common summer activity, I think, and we've just seen the results of that over the past few years. Also, so there's a table that shows all of the more detailed information, and as well as a couple of graphs that show the 5-year trend for both of the campgrounds, showing that even through the pandemic, we saw a gradual increase in camping use at Beavermead and also at Warsaw, not as much, but still a gradual increase. And you can see the dip in the day use visitors through 2020, 2021, and then jumping back up to more of a normal day use activity level in 2022 with the full season in place. That's the report, and if there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Jesse. I think Ron, your hand went up first, even. So we'll start with you, and then Mike, then Joe.
Thanks through you, Chair. So when I look at the report again, first time seeing it, so trying to make sense of some of the numbers here. So it says camp nights sold versus available. Obviously, you know, looking at back in 2018, we're at about 50%. We're better than that now. I always hear that you can't get a campsite anywhere in Ontario if you don't book it before April. But yet it looks like we're at about 60 or 70% sold. Does that have to do with the type of camps available, or what do you think is happening there?
Through you, Chair. So we did an analysis on this last year, like camping usage over the season length, and there are peaks and valleys when it comes to the seasonal, the bookings throughout the season. So we do get a big jump on seasonal or campsite bookings between late June to early September. But the shoulder season, so mid-May through to the end of June, and mid to early September to mid-October, we don't see as much booking. So that's where you get the gaps in the available sites. So the available sites is basically the season length times the number of sites available. So yeah. So that's where you get
Seasons really that are impacting the number, not that we're not fully occupied through July and August.
No, that's when we see the full, like the higher amount of bookings through that time, and yeah, like the gaps are in the shoulder seasons.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Mike?
Thank you, Chair, and to Jesse. Are we looking at having a full range of services, retails and rentals this season? All our kayaks, everything that we say would have done before, we're going to be back in full swing again.
Yeah, so through you, Chair, we did offer those services last year as well, and that's where we saw a big jump back with our revenue levels at both the campgrounds. We offered our full services at the gatehouses and the rentals as well.
Good thing.
Thanks. Joe?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Jesse. Earlier, Jesse, in the agenda, we dealt with our capital expenses in 2022, and one of the budget lines was, and it says replace canoes. That's canoes plural at Warsaw Caves. We budgeted $1,600, so we spent $1,190. Now, even though it says canoes plural, you can spend $1,000 on a canoe easily. So how many did we buy for $1,190?
Through you, Chair, that was the purchase of one canoe.
One canoe. Okay. That's, I wondered why it said plural. That's fine. Thank you.
Yeah.
Right. Always the watchdog, Joe. Good thing you're on the audit committee. Mr. Baldwin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and through you to Jesse. As you undoubtedly know, the Canadian Canoe Museum is currently under construction, and we are a little bit behind in terms of when it's slated to open. But with respect to Director Black's question earlier, I'm wondering if looking proactively, if Orca might be looking at kind of a co-promoting in the shoulder seasons when the Canoe Museum does open, hopefully mid to late September this year. But going the other way, May and June, there may be an opportunity there for us to look for a partnership of sorts that would enhance not only our potential revenue and also the Canadian Canoe Museum. So just wondering, Jesse, if that might be something that you could put on your radar and consider. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I will do that.
Any other questions, comments? I believe, Jesse, I think it was maybe pre-pandemic, and it might have dealt with Ron's questions as well. As I thought we were going to do a monthly chart of the year for the campground occupancies as well, like so we could actually see where the solid bookings are. And I think associated with that, we were talking about days of the week as well. Like, is it empty during the, is Wednesday the easiest day to get at site, and it's like every weekend booked kind of thing. Like just a little bit more granular on that data, I think is what we might be looking for next year. I mean, you don't need to bring a report back this time, but just so we can kind of see where that data lays out. Because I agree with Mr. Black. When I read it, I was like, wow, there's a whole lot of campsites there. So maybe a little bit more granularity on the statistics would be fantastic.
Okay. Thank you.
And with that, we get a receiver for the report. Ron, thank you. Mike. All right, all in favor? So received. All right, so that brings us to our monthly CAO report. Jeanette, you've been busy visiting a lot of people.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I have, and it's been a great opportunity for me. As I have one more presentation to go through, and there's also been lots of staff engagement, as you also heard through our board and orientation. I do want to highlight just one thing, if I can. Understanding that more information is going to be coming forward. This has been a long file, and only recently have we had some more movement on the file, and that is our insurance claim for the windstorm damage that happened in May. In terms of things, our insurance company came back and asked for a number of additional pieces of information, and so it is looking promising for us, but that we will be able to have a claim that will also give us some funds to be able to do some of the cleanup that we have not been able to do. So more to come on that as we sort of get in the last stretch of the work that we needed to on the administration side to have the claim.
Excellent, thank you. Ron, question? Comment?
Yeah, just a question around the FedDev construction project meetings and what that's all about.
Happy to. So we have regular progress meetings with our engineering firm and also our construction firm to check in on the status of those projects that are happening. So we're still looking to have a March 31st completion date, which is where the grants end. So this last little bit of weather, while Mother Nature is not liking it because climate change is here, but it is helping our construction of getting those projects completed. So that's what it is. And then I also have meetings with our FedDev liaisons. We have 2 of them for the 3 files. And so they ask for regular check-in meetings, progress meetings, and reports to make sure that we're meeting our commitments.
So we've got grants from FedDev for these projects. Is that the reason?
Correct. Yeah. Orca was very, very successful last year. $1.3 million in FedDev, I'm rounding it up, but FedDev grant money. So that went to the Jackson Creek Trail, which was the largest chunk, and then these 3 washroom privies projects.
Great. Thanks, Jeanette.
Thank you. Any other questions? No, and Ron, you good to receive that report? Thank you. And seconder, Pat, thank you. All in favor? So received. Thank you very much. All right, next section is correspondence and media coverage. I don't know if anybody wants to bring any of that forward. Seeing none, I'll ask to have it received. We got John and Gary. Good. All in favor? So received. Thank you very much. Moves us to open forum. Does anybody have anything they want to bring up or discuss? Going once, going twice. Oh, Joe. All right.
Sold. Just, I guess, really for the board's FYI, the Conservation Authority is doing some property improvements and enlargement of the parking lot at the Harold Town Conservation Area. And it has created a bit of a parking problem along Old Norwood Road. Old Norwood Road is the road that goes by Harold Town's conservation property, and it's in OSM Township. A lot of the vehicles, while this parking lot construction is ongoing, is parking on the road. So Jeanette has been working with the Director of Public Works, and they've been finding a solution to it. The end is in sight because I believe the project is supposed to be completed by the end of March, when it should get really busy there. But just in case anybody got any comments about it, I have from some of our residents, and Jeanette has managed that situation, I think, very well, along with our Public Works Department.
Great.
The warm weather as well, right? That parking lot turned into mud.
Is that project also not being funded through the FedDev?
It is.
Yes.
It is. Yes.
All right, anybody else? All right, moving on. We no closed sessions, no report. Our future meetings. See, we've talked about March 16th. We also have a orientation session at 3 o'clock. Thank you for those members who joined today for the orientation session. It's always good for a little bit of a refresher on the staff and know what was going on around here. Conservation Ontario has their big meeting on April 3rd, and then the Source Water Protection Authority is April 20th. And The Protection Authority does not involve directors. That's correct, Jeanette. Is that correct? I should say. That's a staff level meeting, is it not?
No, it's on the board. It involves the directors.
Oh, okay. Sorry, my bad. So yes, so I guess that'll be our first, and I assume there'll be an orientation along with that then.
Definitely more information to come on that.
More information to come. All right. And with that, I look for an adjournment. Mr. Boyko, we get you out on time. Mover, seconder.
Look at that, Ryan. We didn't even jinx it after all.
No, we didn't. All in favor of adjourning? And so adjourned. Thank you, Meredith, for running us tonight. We did great.
Thank you
Good
very
night,
much,
everybody.
board. Good night.
All right, see everyone. Go Pete's, go.